Hello from gardening at Douentza here in Ireland, and in this video I'm going to show you how to do one of my favourite gardening tasks of all, and that is deadheading flowers. You're very welcome to my garden, Douentza, and it's July at the moment. The flowers are looking fabulous in the garden, but one thing I notice is that some of them are going over, and what that means is that the flowers have faded and they've actually turned brown. And what we're going to learn how to do in this video is how to deadhead them. Now, why might you bother to deadhead flowers? And there are 5 reasons. Now, the first reason why you need to deadhead flowers in the border is to prolong the show. And certain flowers, like dahlias, really respond well to deadheading. So with regular deadheading, the plant will actually produce more flowers and keep the show on the road for longer. The second reason for deadheading is to conserve the rootstock or the bulb, and this is important with plants like lilies. So if you don't deadhead, then what happens is the plant puts a lot of energy into producing seed when you want it actually to funnel that energy into the bulb and help make the bulb stronger. The third reason for deadheading is kind of obvious, and it's to do with aesthetics. Obviously, if you've got a pretty border and you've got big brown blobs in the middle, you don't want them spoiling the view, so you'll cut off those dead brown blobs just to improve the look of the border. And even if your plant doesn't have flowers, at least it will then have fresh green leaves that we can focus on. The fourth reason for deadheading is that very often when flowers fade and they fall down, they'll fall down on top of green leaves and can spoil the look of them. And the final and fifth reason for deadheading is to avoid copious amounts of seed going into your borders. Now, some plants are worse for this than others. The likes of poppies and aqualegias, these are plants that will produce copious amounts of seed. If left to their own devices, then you may end up with more plants than you want. So we're going to cut off the flowers to avoid that happening. Now, in this particular instance, we have a herbaceous peony, and the flowers have definitely gone over, so we want to take these out so that we don't have brown blobs in the border. And the trick to deadheading is, well, number one, have a very sharp secateurs or scissors, which is necessary for smaller stems sometimes. And the second trick is to always cut to something. Now, here what we might do is cut to the next leaf. So here's the deadhead we want to take off, and we might cut to the leaf. However, this whole stem has gone over here, so in the case of this particular peony, it makes sense to cut back, not to here, but I want to take off this stuff here and this stuff here. So we're going to go down a bit deeper into the plant, and we're actually going to take off the stem down here where it's at the next leaf, and off it comes. In this particular instance here, well, we could just take it down to the next leaf if we wanted, and over here the same thing again. And here are some dahlias that I'm going to deadhead. So if you come in and have a look at what I'm doing here. Now, first off, here's a ligularia, and this is one that's finished flowering pretty much, so we're going to take this out. Now, I said to cut down to a leaf. However, if I take this out here, it's going to look pretty silly bobbing around like that. So this is one I'll cut the stem off down to the ground like that. Now, next up are the dahlias, and these are very important. It's very important that you deadhead dahlias to make sure that they repeat flower, and this one has definitely gone over. So we'll go in and have a look at the base here, and we'll cut just above the leaf. Now, always when you do this, you need to keep a sharp eye out for where the particular plant is going to produce its next buds. So I'll show you in a few minutes what I mean. Okay, so for example, see this dahlia flower here? Well, here's the bud. So if I cut that off down there, I'm going to remove a new flower that's about to bloom. So we need to take it off at the leaves, leaving the bud. This one is gone, and the place to take this one out is down here further because there's no flower coming there. With this dahlia here, down here in the leaf axil, I can't actually see a bud, but I wouldn't be surprised if a new bud comes there before very long, so I'll take that out here. With this one here, that one's definitely gone. See the new bud there? We'll be careful not to cut that. We'll take this one out, and this one, there's life left in it yet, but it's very ugly, so we'll take it out, leaving this new one there, and etc, etc. So you just go around all of your flowers, taking off anything that's dead or decayed or bad looking or about to be bad looking in the next few days when your guests are due, and just snip them off, but paying close attention not to take off any emerging new buds. Okay, now this dahlia bush is going to look quite bare when I finish taking all these spent flowers off, but with regular deadheading you should have them coming up fairly quickly and promptly, and the display should be continuous. That's that done. Now here we have a big display of heucheras, and they were magnificent for a long time, and the flower heads were super too, but now they're not really adding anything to the display. They're very brown, and they'll only get browner. So in this particular case, what we're going to do is cut off the flower stems as close to the leaf as possible. This is not a plant that's going to flower again this year anyway, so we just take them down as close as we can and just neaten the whole thing up. And here we are with the heucheras cut back, and doesn't that look so much better? Just a bit of sweeping and further tidying up, and it will start to put out new growth and look great for the rest of the summer. Now this cutting back to the base is something that you use for various types of plants, including the penstemon, which is this one over here, but this isn't in need of deadheading at the moment, so I'm certainly not going to cut it back. And daylilies need to be deadheaded as well, but this is a little bit trickier because the flowers, the spent flowers like this one, they pop off so easily, so you need to be careful, and gingerly does it. So this one is gone, but if I just very gently snap it there at the base, then I can remove it without damaging the new emerging buds. This one is also gone. Just gonna snap it very gingerly at the base, and then etc, etc. And here we have a clump of campanula, and this is a wonderful long flowering one, but it does need deadheading, and as we can see, some flowers are still looking good and some are quite brown. Now when you deadhead this, and with some other plants like geums, you need to be very careful not to cut off the new buds. Let me show you what I mean. So that's a dead flower head, and look in there, you see that? Those are the new buds. So if I were to take this down to here, or worse still, down to the leaf, I'm going to cut off potential flowers. So we need to cut to the next emerging buds. That's the right way to do it in that case. And here with this flower, same thing. Take it off there. Now this is a bit more fiddly in terms of deadheading than other examples we've seen, but for the best display it's very, very necessary. Now in this particular case, this flower here is the last one from this section. In this section we've no new buds. We have to go down this far to find the newest buds, which is this one. And of course with annuals like this calendula, deadheading is the most important thing to keep them going. Now there's no mystery to many of them, and with this calendula what we're just going to do is cut to the nearest leaf. Anything that's dead looking. See that one there? That's producing seed. It's not a new bud, it's an old one. So that's what the new buds look like, and that's what the old ones look like. And we're going to cut that down to the nearest set of leaves. Okay, so these are just tiny leaves. I'm not going to bother cutting to there, it would look stupid. We'll cut it down to here. And here, 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 here. Now this is a decision. If you're going to deadhead again tomorrow, you could leave this one. If you're not going to deadhead for several days, then you might as well take it off. And there we go. Doesn't that make a much neater display? Now, of course, if you're collecting seed, as is the case with this plant here, you're not going to take off all the dead flowers. So this is a once a year flower. It's finished flowering and I've removed most of these spikes, but I've left a couple because I do want to collect seed. And as with everything in life, there are exceptions. And the exceptions to deadheading include roses that produce hips, like this Rosa rugosa here, which produces flowers, and then those flowers develop into hips that will go red over time. Look at them there, like giant apples. And these will provide ornamental value later in the season, so it's not a good idea to cut them off. And besides, they're particularly loved by the birds. So that's the second exception. Things like sunflowers or rose hips that the birds really love, you don't want to be cutting them off. And then the third exception relates to things that produce ornamental seed heads. Some types of clematis and pulsatilla, for example. I don't have an example to show you right now, but if you have something with ornamental seed heads, you'll know about it. And just a little reminder that for alströmerias, which are these amazing Peruvian lilies, and also for roscoa, which are these little sweet cuties, I've already made specific deadheading videos. So I'll link to the roscoa and alströmeria deadheading videos at the very end of this one. So that was my video on deadheading flowers. I hope you found it useful, and I hope I've covered a multitude of scenarios that you'll come across in the garden. Deadheading is such a nice, relaxing job. If you've got the time, just take your secateurs or your scissors, have a wander around the garden and take the opportunity to enjoy the flowers, to appreciate how your borders look before the job and after the job. Thanks very much as always for watching, and please check back again for lots more gardening videos. Bye!